بسم الله الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبع سنته إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of your weekly Islamic chat discussion show, Live by Islam. And inshallah, we've had a lot of interesting topics, and we've had some more episodes that are focused around the explanation of Surah Al-Fatiha, like we did last week with brother Muhammad Tim Humble. And this week we want to talk about some of the benefits or lessons that we can get from Surah Al Kahf. And obviously Surah Al Kahf, as we know, is something that we should try to read every Friday. For many, there's many different hadith talking about the rewards, such as it being a light from one Friday to the other, and such as it expiating being a reason for the forgiving of sins from the Friday you read it to the Friday before and after, etc. So many, various hadith. So today we'll discuss those inshallah, and other points and lessons from Surah Al Kahf. And to do that with me, again, is brother Al Amir. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair for coming on the show again.
Once again, jazakallah khair for inviting me.
So,
Glad to be here.
As I mentioned to the guests, we want to kind of discuss. We have done some benefits and some lessons, rightly so, for Surah Al-Fatiha, that being the most important, if you could say, really the most important surah in a sense of it's what we have to use it to open our daily prayers. And so today we want to discuss some lessons and some benefits. And as we know, all chapters of the Quran obviously have benefits and have lessons, but some of them have very profound lessons or very profound benefits. And Surah Al Kahf is one of those chapters. So inshallah today we will elaborate on those inshallah.
Inshallah, as you mentioned earlier, we can derive the benefits from many surahs in the Quran. Fatiha being one of the short surahs in the Quran, and very comprehensive in its meaning. And as we know, it has 7 ayat, and one narration says 8, one opinion. And it's a very short surah. You could say you could fit it in half a page or less than that. It's just, the way it's stationed in the Quran, in Mus'haf, looks like a page. Surah Al Kahf, on the other hand, that's almost 11 pages long. Approximately 11 pages long, which is a long surah. So we really don't have time to dissect the whole surah on the show today, but what we will do inshallah is we're going to talk about what are the benefits, and what's the first, why are we focusing on it today, and secondly, what are the lessons and the benefits we can gain from it. And you mentioned already one hadith that it's a light upon a person who recites it from Friday to Friday. And another hadith of the Rasulullah says that this is and of course it's narrated Muslim and Riyadh al-Salihin as well. Anyone who memorizes 10 ayahs from the beginning of Surah Al Kahf will be protected from the Dajjal and his fitna. Another narration mentions that these 10 ayat are not from the beginning, they are from the end. Okay. I think Surah Al Kahf has about 110 ayahs, so if you're talking about 10 from the beginning or 10 from the end, you're just 20 ayat, and the whole surah is 110, so 90 ayat. You don't technically have to memorize, but if you do, in a way, it'll be protection for you.
I mean, in reality as well, if we are trying to read every Friday, if we try and keep that as a regular habit of reading the Quran or reading Surah Al Kahf on that day, then you should find within a year or 2 or 3 or 4, if even that much, no doubt you will memorize a lot of it anyway. If not all of it, but if you're reading it every week, you're going to quite easily memorize those 10 verses in the beginning or the end. It's not something that's particularly...
Yeah, for sure. And Surah Al Kahf, chronologically speaking, Surah itself, why is it called Kahf? It means cave. So in it, there are numerous stories that are mentioned. So there are 4 major stories that are mentioned in Surah Al Kahf. And of course, first one being the story about the people of the cave.
Before you go into that, I wanted to point something out. Maybe you were going to touch upon that, but it's what's very interesting about the revelation of Surah Al Kahf and these stories is this is something that the Jewish rabbis or the learned Jewish people had come to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to try and prove him wrong, to try and say that he's not a prophet, by saying if this man is really a prophet, let's ask him about Ashab Al Kahf. Let's ask him about the people of the cave. He's not going to know it because only us learned rabbis know it. Not even the general Jewish population in Medina know it. So this is, we can catch him out now. They really thought this is going to be it. He's going to be exposed as a liar or as a fraud or as a fake, God forbid, A'udhu Billah, as a fake prophet. So this was going to be to them as they say, the knockout punch.
Yes.
This will shut him down and this will be the end of his message because he will be exposed. So they went to him and they asked him to tell us about that. And as we know, I believe it was overnight, it was revealed to him, and he came back the next day and they were, as we say, dumbfounded. They could not believe it because he came back with so much detail, and obviously some of these stories we're going to discuss, but that was able to show them, and they knew that no one knew this.
But all these 4 stories, if you look into it, we'll talk one by one, inshallah. They all are from the time of children of Israel, you could say, from the time of Israelites, or from the time of people of Musa alayhi salam.
And this is what and they had passed it down. That's why they knew that only we know that, because this is our secret kind of narrations that have reached us. Yes. This is not known to the general public. So therefore we'll catch him out now, because if he is from Allah, then he would know this. So he will be able to get this information, and he did.
And even in story, for example, in Surah Al Kahf, one of the stories of Musa is mentioned in here. But we know in numerous places in the Quran there was story of Musa. But in this particular surah, we get introduced to Musa and Khidr. So we'll get to that, inshallah. But anyway, the first and major story of the surah is that is that topic or narration that talks about a people of the cave. These are believing young men who were living in a disbelieving country, who were faced with such fitna that they decided to leave their homes and run away with their religion, with their deen intact, because they wanted to protect themselves and their religion after a confrontation between them and their people. Now, someone might ask what those people were, what time was that exactly? The ulama have different, and we don't really know which time it was, but we know it was long time ago. And Allah rewarded them with the mercy of the cave and care that was unheard of, because we know that even though they slept, some ulama, about 300 years, right, that they slept for this long, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fed them, that they did not have to wake up, that they did not have to go to washroom or something like this, that Allah took care of them. And this is a miracle in itself. All right, so this is one of the stories. And they woke up to find that their village, where they escaped from, this place, that they all became believers. And this is, and they praise Allah that this is a miracle in itself, right? So then you have, this is one story. The second story is that story about the owner of the 2 gardens, and this is also in time of, you could say, of people of Israel. The story of the man who Allah had blessed with, but he forgot the one who has blessed him. This is meaning that it's a lesson for us also, if you think about it. If Allah has blessed us with something of goodness of this life, be it wealth, be it children, really, that we're living a comfortable life, sometimes very comfortable life, and then we forgot to praise Allah. This is really a trial for us in a way, because if we forget the one who has blessed us, then what are we? We are really, in a way, we're cursed that we're forgetting to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has blessed us with all this. Not only that he has blessed this person, but he transgressed against Allah and had doubts in his faith, because he became so prideful, the wrong pride that people may have, that he's like, this is from my hand, everything that I've done is because of what I did, instead of saying everything that I've done is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with his help, with his izzah, with his help, and I ask Allah, and of course you do your work and you put trust in Allah. That's how we're supposed to be doing things in our lives, instead of everything that everything that I have done is from my own hands. And this is the false pride or kibr that we talk about. So he didn't give thanks for the blessings, even though his friend reminded him. The friend who was less fortunate, he was reminding him, and he's like, who are you? You little peasant, and stuff like this. And he dismissed him in many ways. And this is the second story. And of course, what happened was there was destruction of the crops and harvest and regret when it was too late. So this owner of this garden had a beautiful garden, and that he praised himself without not praising Allah, that everything was destroyed, and then he actually came back, but it was already too late. So this is the second story.
And this is also, like you said, a lesson for us, because it's so easy to become proud. And the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that the person who won't enter paradise, who has mithqala min dhur, who just has like an atom's weight of pride, will not enter paradise. So that's a very good lesson for us, to do our utmost to try not to be proud. And even if we have money and wealth and whatever it may be from the worldly life, which people tend to become very proud and arrogant over other people for the simplest of things: cars, houses, money, whatever. So it's always a lesson to us, because we could all slip into that, to remember, that's very strong hadith about the one who has an atom's weight of pride and entering Jannah as a something that would stop you from entering Jannah. So that should always kind of be a wake-up call for us, that we don't end up being like this man.
Yes.
Because ultimately this man ended up saying that, I do not think my garden will ever end, and I don't even think that the Sa'ah will be established. The hour will become, as in the day of judgment, because he became so proud, and you could say he thought himself almost like a god, that he was said, this thing I have will never perish, and I don't even think that the day of judgment will come.
SubhanAllah. But yet,
so it can build up to that, and people think no way, but it literally can. You'd be surprised how it can build up until people.
But some people may die on this. I mean, in this state. But this person was tested by Allah, and everything was destroyed, and he realized his mistake.
Yeah.
And that's, in a way, it's a lesson for us, that if things are going really well, but we forgetting to praise the one and thank the one who actually blessed us with this, and we are living in this way, in blindness, it's really bad for us, because we need to realize, come back to the one who created us, and to come back to the one who's helping us. So subhanAllah, lesson being that, if Allah blessed you with something, come back to earth, spend money, give it to charity, keep yourself humble. One of the lessons we always say, keep with the people who look to the people who are below you, not to look down on them, who are less fortunate than you, for example, in wealth, so that you may kind of humble yourself. Because if you look up to the people who are more wealthier than you, you're never going to stop. It's always going to be haunting you or tricking you. And we see this from ulama. They always talk about these things, how you could say they chill with the regular folk, right? Mm-hmm. Regular people. So that's the second story. The third story we mentioned earlier is that of Musa and Khidr. Now, when Musa was asked who is the most knowledgeable person on earth, he said, me. Then Allah showed him that there was another one who was more knowledgeable than him. And we know the story. And Musa traveled to meet him in order to learn from, and we don't understand Allah's wisdom. Now, we're not going to talk about all the details of the story, we don't have time, but this is one of the stories. That's the third story. The fourth story is that of Dhul Qarnayn. And this story is a great king who joined both knowledge and strength and combined it together, right? And traveled to all parts of the earth, helping people, and spreading goodness. So he overcame the problem, and we know the famous story in Bible. It's mentioned Gog and Magog, or in the Quran, Yajuj and Majuj, by building a dam that was able to put the work of them, of these people, and who could hardly understand a word. So they were just numerous in number, and Dhul Qarnayn was able to put a stop to them. Now, go ahead.
We should move on just briefly, because we mentioned the story of Musa alayhi salam. Two quick points. What we can definitely learn from the story of Musa alayhi salam and Khidr alayhi salam is the one, that he can teach us the
We'll come to that.
Oh, you're going to come back to it, are you?
Yes, we're going to come
no
back.
problem, inshallah.
Yeah. Now we just wanted to chronologically mention the stories, just to touch upon, without going too much in detail, because we don't have that much time. So now, what are the 4 lessons from these 4 stories we can take? The first one being this story of Surah Al Kahf, of the people of the cave, is that one of trial of religion, trial of faith, trial of iman. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to leave your faith just because you've been pressured by society or somebody to say, look, you cannot be praying, you cannot be glorifying Allah, you cannot say it like this. And this happened throughout history. This in the Ummah of Muhammad as well as the Ummahs of before, where people were prevented of praying to Allah. And we know this famous story even not long ago, 700 years ago, of people of Spain, where they were forced to eat that unlawful things and classify themselves as non-Muslims, and they will not be able to pray or anything like that. So we know, we can go back in history, have all these things. So this is the trial of religion from that story of people of Kahf. That's one lesson. The second lesson is from the owner of 2 gardens, is that one, the trial. So these are all trials, right? This is the trial of wealth and children. And we talk about it just now. How can it affect one? And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, the children are a game. It could be a game for you.
المال والبنون زينة الحياة الدنيا والباقيات الصالحات خير عند ربك.
So yes, we want our children to be worshipping Allah, and they'll be a nur for us in Yawm al-Qiyamah if they're righteous and so on. But at the same time, they could distract us from what's really there. So we have to balance. It's all about balancing, right? So this is the trial of wealth and children, and we touched upon it already. We don't have to go into too much detail as well. The third one is that the trial of knowledge, which belongs to the story of Musa and Khidr. And this trial of knowledge is, you may have a person who is super wealthy and says, I am the richest, I'm like this, I'm like that. But you have a person also who says, I'm the smartest, I'm the coolest, I know the most, I'm the best expert in this field, or like this, or put a claim to something that only he himself or she herself sees in this claim, yet nobody else agrees. For example, when you look at the scholars of Islam, you never heard of any of them say, I am the best scholar there was. It's us who came after them, and ulama who came after them, who say, you know what, this alim, mashallah, tabarakallah, he was an excellent alim. Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmed, Abu Hanifa, all of these, they never praise themselves. We praise them because we know what they've done. So this is the trial of knowledge. And the last one is the trial of authority. What authority can do to a person. Either he uses it for goodness, or he uses it for something else. So these are the 4, you could say, lessons or trials. What is the utmost benefit we can learn from these 4 stories?
Well, before you go into the utmost benefit, before the break, you mentioned that we want to discuss what are the utmost benefits that we can get, or lessons from these 4 stories in Surah Al Kahf.
For example, how do you survive these 4 things? And we'll see how these 4 stories unfolded in a way. What's the main lesson for each we can use? For the people of Kahf, people of the cave, how did they survive this ordeal that they had to leave the disbelieving place that they were living in? Is because they supported each other. They had the good companionship. And this is the very important lesson for us. The reason for Jama'ah is for us to have good companions, because Shaitan picks us apart if we are singled out. If we are staying away from the Jama'ah, he picks us out, and it's easy for him to deal with us. So always having a good companion is very important. And we know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, a person is on the deen on the level of his companions.
المرء على دين خليلي فينظر أحدكم من يخالد. That the man is on the way of life or the religion of his friend.
Exactly.
So look to who you take as your friends.
Exactly. So, and we see these youth, they were at the same level. They were supporting each other. They were advising each other, and they decided as a group to do this. So good companionship is very important. So this is the main lesson we can use or main, you could say, how they survived this ordeal. This is the main thing, what they did.
It reminds me on that hadith, but there's also a verse in the Qur'an. It talks about those people on the Day of Judgment, who will actually say, "Woe to me, Ya laytani lam attakhidh fulanan khalila." You know, woe to me. I wish I did not take such and such as a friend. You know, he misguided me from the straight path after I was guided. So this is also, you know, it shows us the importance of having good friends, and this can be something, as that ayah says, that can be a source of regret for us on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and can affect us in Yawm al-Qiyamah.
Because our friends, if we consider such people friends who took us away from path of Allah, they're not the ones going to be saying, "Oh, I'm the one who did it." They're going to be free from that. You know, we're going to then be blaming ourselves.
And they even have a saying in Arabic. It's not a hadith or anything, but it's like a saying when they say as-sahib yashab, like the companion or the friend pulls you. And that's the reality. I mean, it's very hard now. If you, for example, someone says, you know, I'm going to hang around with a bunch of gangsters who smoke weed and rob people, and you're not going to get some of that. It's very, very hard. And then, and immediately what reminds me of another hadith is the Prophet ﷺ said, the good companion is like the seller of musk. You know, if you go to his shop, or you spend time with a guy who sells perfumes and musks, you're going to at least come away with it. You're shaking his hand, you're going to come away with a nice smell. At least you're going to get some of it on your clothes, or some of it on your skin when you shook his hand. So you're going to leave with at least a good smell about you, a good scent. So some goodness will come off of him. And then he gave the example of a bad companion is like one who's a blacksmith. If you go and spend time with him, you're either going to smell like something that's burnt, or you're going to get some sparks that are going to burn holes in your clothes. And this is exactly what it's like. I mean, if we be realistic with ourselves, if you hang around with people who have a certain way, you're going to pick up their bad habits. You know, whether it's a small amount, but no doubt you'll pick up some.
Some people say, you know, they got their friends who are like social pickles in a way. A pickle basically means in English, it's like a cucumber that was put in a certain solution, and it took everything, or vinegar, right? He took everything, it soaked everything in. So social pickle means that somebody, you put him in an environment, he will pick everything, whatever the environment is. So somebody says, this person is social pickle in a way that, subhanallah, if you put him with good people, he will be good himself, right? But if you put him with the bad people, he will be also following, because he's trying to please the crowd. So we ourselves, we have to be careful about this, and we have to be careful for our children as well, who their companions are. And we always look to that, and it's very important. When you're an adult, subhanAllah, you already have a way, and you know who's good for you now. But when you are adolescent or young, at that point maybe you need some guidance. We have to be careful with that, with our younger brothers and our children, so on and so forth. The second lesson from the second story of the man of the two gardens is that the trial of wealth of children is the main benefit from this that we can take from, is that knowing the reality of life, that things are going to happen to us, and we have to be able to understand them, be ready for them, and be ready to overcome them when they come to us. So you may be tested with wealth, you may be tested with children, you may be tested with calamities that befall you, that befall us. And we have to be ready to accept the challenge, first of all, not to be depressed and not to just totally fail. We have to be able to wholeheartedly take it in and deal with it, inshallah, that we succeed from it, or we actually become better because of it.
That reminds me of the verse that Allah says that we will test you لنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات. That we will test you with hunger and the loss of your money and your possessions, and sometimes people, anfus, like souls. People may pass away. And then it says, فَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, and give glad tidings to those who are patient. الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة. You know, like the ones that they give glad tidings to the one who are patient. Upon those are blessings, peace, and mercy from Allah.
SubhanAllah. And you recognize that they will return to Allah, right? So this is all a lesson itself, that we need to be able to withhold any trial that comes our way. All right. So that's the second, from second story, you could say, the lesson. The third one is the trial of knowledge. We talk about Muslim is that we can summarize from all the story is that of humility, is that of being humble, that of being polite, being nice. And this is even good manners, and we know there are books written about this. And even Rasulullah ﷺ talks about a people who is the best of you is the one who is the best of character, the one who is the best of manners. And even the ulama, they said that really the knowledge doesn't come without the manners, right? No matter how much you know, if you don't have the manners, you have no knowledge. They go hand in hand. And Musa ﷺ found this also in a hard way from Khidr, that you need to be humble when the humbleness is needed, and you need to, have humility, that subhanallah, that you are creation of Allah, and you have to know your place.
I mean, not just that, I mean, it shows as well that no matter how much we learn, and we know this, that you can never stop learning, and you can never stop learning. And there is a hadith that even though some of the people say it's weak, but even the scholars who say it's weak, they say the meaning behind it is one of truth, and one that you can definitely benefit from, when it says seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave.
Yes.
And many scholars say it's a weak hadith, but even the ones who do, they say, but no doubt the meaning is
of course
correct, sound, that you're never going to stop learning, and you should never try to stop learning, from when, as soon as you can, until you on your deathbed. And we see that from some of the scholars. They would never say, like, I'm a scholar now, I've memorized Bukhari and Muslim, I'm teaching all these various books in the Prophet's mosque or in the haram, wherever it may be. They would keep on learning and learning and learning.
Even recognizing your abilities. For example, you talk about scholars. Someone say, they will say, you know what, he's an expert in fiqh, in jurisprudence. And you may come to the person, student knowledge for example, and you ask him a question about fiqh, he will answer. But then you ask him a question about hadith, really detailed, he will say in proper way, it's like, you know what, I am not expert in this, maybe you should go ask this person. This is humility, recognizing your abilities.
And a lot of the time he may to some extent know the answer, but he feels this is better qualified person to answer this, and who's easily available, so I will direct them to.
Exactly. Perfect real life example. I work in a hospital. A patient comes and asks a physician, he has stomach pain, or he has arm pain, for example. Now he says, this is what it is, but if for example the arm pain, it doesn't go away, or something is wrong that really needs to be seen by a specialist, a proper physician will say, you know what, you have to go see a hand specialist, orthopedic surgeon. I'm not the surgeon, I'm not the expert in this, you need to go to such and such person. Now if that person says, you know what, I can fix the stomach, I can fix the brain, I can fix the all kinds of things, I'm an expert in everything, no need to go see anybody else, then that means you should not be seeing that physician. You should move on, because recognizing that there's so many specialties and everybody is responsible, everybody knows his specialty the best. And that's why people nowadays say, but he's a doctor, but he doesn't know really this. No, actually, he's actually a good doctor. You know why? Because he actually told you he's not an expert in gastro or lungs or anything like that. He sent you to that guy. That means he's recognized abilities and he's sending you to a specialist. So same thing for anything in life. You have to defer if you are not expert in such a field or anything, even as simple as referring to your daughter comes to you, ask you certain questions, she reaches puberty and she's asking you, and you're a father, maybe it's better for you to say, look, go to your mother and ask her this question, right? As simple as that. So this trial of knowledge and being humble is the third lesson. The fourth lesson that we can take from Dhul Qarnayn is that of sincerity. Because he was given authority but he was sincere and he recognized Allah as his Lord, and he answered only to him, and he was doing all the deeds that would please Allah, and he was sincere. He was not trying to fake it, and so on and so forth. In two major lessons in Surah Al Kahf, we see that one of the reasons that these people were, you can see companions advising each other. You can see one of the people advising the man of the garden to humble himself, right? The main lesson from this is that they were calling to Allah. They're reminding each other about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that of Musa and Khidr and Zulqarnain, that was also reminding, we see constant story about remembering the hereafter. So these are the two major, you could say, summaries of these four stories: calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reminding ourselves about the akhirah, that the akhirah is coming and it's real, and that we all will have to face it, but we have to prepare ourselves for such a day.
I mean, we've got a few minutes left. But what reminded me about the fact that they were calling to Allah is, you can also, we know that we have Surah Al-Asr that says وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. وَتَوَاصَوْ means to advise, be advising, continuously advising of each other, and calling people to the truth and to having patience upon that truth. And that surah is, those lessons like that, and in that surah, it's so amazing that even Imam Shafi'i said that if Allah had only revealed to mankind Surah Al-Asr, that would have been enough. Yeah. So the whole point that, as you mentioned there, that they were calling to Allah, they were reminding people, that is, very, very important that we do.
Since you said we have a few minutes left, I need to finish, and this is the major part of this lesson for us today, is that we mentioned two hadith talking about Friday to Friday, that covers a person from Friday to Friday. But second hadith we talk about that is a protection against Dajjal. Right? Yes. Now, what does the Dajjal have to do with this surah? So the ulama, they have dissected it, even though it's not mentioned in Surah Al Kahf. But they've said, why is this a protection for us if we memorize the 10 ayat from the front and 10 ayat from the back? But there are two different narrations. Both are correct. Just to be safe, memorize both. Right? So the Dajjal himself, he will come with 4 trials. And we mentioned them already. He will ask people to worship him instead of Allah. This is trial of Iman, trial of Aqidah, you could say, trial of faith, trial of religion. This is the first lesson we talked about. The second, he will order the sky to rain. He will tempt people with his wealth, and this is the trial of wealth. The third one is that trial of knowledge. He will know things, and he will make you think that he is all-knowing. He will, and for example, he will be able to ascribe, well, at that time there was no TV or news that you could find out what's going on in Australia, for example, but Dajjal would be able to tell us what's going on in whatever side of the world or whatever. So this would be his trial that he's going to come with. And of course, trial of authority, which is a major part of Dajjal, is that he will control major parts of the earth. And the one who sees the Dajjal, he may fall to him just like this, unless he is a firm believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the things is that he knows these 10 ayat from the beginning and then 10 ayat from the end. So this is subhanallah, Surah Al Kahf when it regards to Dajjal. So the ulama, they said, why did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mention that the person who memorizes this part will be protected from Dajjal? So this is, I think, the major stories that we mentioned, and we'll just talk about a few ayat that are in it. What's the ayah about the good companionship? In translation, the meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and keep yourself patient by being with those who call upon their Lord in the morning and the evening, seeking His countenance, and let not your eyes pass beyond them, desiring adornments of the worldly life, and do not obey one whose heart we have made heedless of our remembrance, and who follows the desire, and whose affair is ever in neglect.
So that's again an emphasis there on the good character, on the good companionship, and we obviously mentioned the importance of that. And this is a verse that Allah is saying to you, keep yourselves with those who are righteous, who remember their Lord, who pray to their Lord.
Yes.
So no doubt, that's another Quranic command on top of what we heard from the Hadith. We have Quranic command, again saying, have good companionship.
Yes. And in support of the second one, knowing the realities of life, translation meaning again, because we don't have time to go through it in Arabic as well, and present to them an example of the life of this world is being like rain, which we send down from the sky, and vegetation of the earth mingles with it, and then it becomes dry remnants scattered by the winds. And Allah is ever over all things perfect in ability, meaning that anything can happen. Rain one day, sunny next day. I just talked to a friend of mine who drove all the way from Riyadh to Dubai, subhanallah, and you would think summer, very comfortable ride. Well, guess what? He said it was so hazy, it was so dusty that he could not drive. The maximum he could go was 10 kilometers an hour. And he had to stop numerous times for like an hour here and there, because you just don't know. You plan for things and things happen. SubhanAllah. And he said instead of a 8 or 9 hour ride, whatever it was, it ended up being 14 or 15 hours. Wow. So, and two more ayat, inshallah, we'll finish. The one on humility, where Musa alayhi salam said, you will find me if Allah wills patient, and I will not disobey you in any order. He recognized his limit when he was talking to Khidr, and he said, rarely I should be humble, and I should be not disobeying Allah in any order. And the last one, that of sincerity with Dhul Qarnayn, is say, I am a man only like you, to whom has revealed that your God is one God, that your God is Allah. And whoever would hope for the meeting with his Lord, let him do righteous work and not associate in the worship of his Lord anyone. Do not associate anybody with his Lord.
A very good way to end the show. Again, Allah showing, that verse saying that Allah is one. This is the belief. This is the belief mankind should have. This is the way to salvation, believing in only one God and worshipping only that God, and not associating any partners. As we always say, do not, not associating any holy men, any peers, any person in the grave, any Sahaba, any from the Prophet ﷺ's family, any prophets, whoever they may be. Only worship Allah alone. And with that, inshallah, we'll end today's show. Jazakallah khair for coming again. And Jazakumullah khair, viewers, for watching today's episode. And inshallah, we'll see you same time, same place next week, inshallah, with another episode of Live by Islam. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum.